Das ist eine gute Idee, ja. Jetzt haben wir 15 Minuten schon überzogen. Vera Sharaf, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, your last name correctly. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh, I'm so glad. I hope I'm sorry, I have to apologize. You may have heard what Dr. Mike Eden told us. Okay, we think it's important that that people hear his warnings, and I'm pretty sure that you agree with him.
Unfortunately, I think I know where it's all leading.
Yeah. Can you, I know who you are. Everybody knows who you are, or should know who you are, but can you...
I'd like to sort of set this, because my perspective is different from others.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist, but... So as a child survivor of the Nazi reign of terror, I learned indelible lessons about the nature of evil. I know the consequences of being stigmatized and demonized as a spreader of disease. My perspective is informed by my experience, by the historical record, and by the empirical evidence. We were required, as Germans know, to wear a yellow Star of David to identify us, to segregate Jews. Exclusionary laws barred the family from normal life, from attending ordinary activities. Our property was impounded. We were forbidden to participate in all educational, religious, cultural gatherings. Travel was forbidden for Jews, so there was no escape. These painful memories from my childhood sensitized me to the threat posed by current restrictive government dictates. In 1776, Benjamin Rush, a doctor and signer of the Declaration of Independence, foresaw the danger of medicine organizing as what he called an undercover dictatorship. Under the Nazi regime, moral norms were systematically obliterated. The medical profession and institutions were radically transformed. Academic science, the military, industry, and clinical medicine were tightly interwoven, as they are now. The Nazi system destroyed a social conscience in the name of public health. Violations against individuals and classes of human beings were institutionalized. Eugenics-driven public health policies replaced the physician's focus on the good of the individual. German medical profession and institutions were perverted. Coercive public health policies violated individual civil and human rights. Criminal methods were used to enforce policies. Nazi propaganda used fear of infectious epidemics to demonize Jews as spreaders of disease, as a menace to public health. This is a hallmark of anti-Semitism. Blame the Jewish people for existential threats. In the Middle Ages, Jews were blamed for the bubonic plague and black plague. Fear and propaganda were the psychological weapons the Nazis used to impose a genocidal regime. And today, some are beginning to understand why the German people didn't rise up. Fear kept them from doing the right thing. Medical mandates today are a major step backward toward a fascist dictatorship and genocide. Government mandates for children. Now it's for adults.
Can we translate that, Vera? Because it's really important, and probably in this clarity, it's never been explained before. Also, Vera Scharaf, how do you pronounce your last name? Genau wie jetzt Angst war, die Menschen davon abhält, aktiv zu werden. Okay.
The stark lesson, excuse me, of the Holocaust is that whenever doctors join forces with government and deviate from their personal, professional, clinical commitment to do no harm to the individual, medicine can then be perverted from a healing, humanitarian profession to a murderous apparatus. You know, the reason that the Greeks made the students of medical schools, before they were allowed into medical school, to swear the Hippocratic Oath, was because they knew that in medicine you gain knowledge about how you can actually kill, and they had to promise that they would do no harm, otherwise they weren't allowed in medical school. I think they were ahead of us in understanding human nature.
Absolutely, yeah.
What sets the Holocaust apart from all other mass genocides is the pivotal role played by the medical establishment, the entire medical establishment. Every step of the murderous process was endorsed by the academic and professional medical establishment. Medical doctors and prestigious medical societies and institutions lent the veneer of legitimacy to infanticide, mass murder of civilians. T4 was the first industrialized medical murder project in history. The first victims were disabled German infants and children under 3. They were identified by midwives who reported their existence to the state. The next victims were the mentally ill, followed by the elderly in nursing homes. The murderous operations were methodical and followed protocol very, very carefully. Questionnaires were sent out to all psychiatric institutions requiring detailed information about each patient. A committee of 54 psychiatrists made the final life and death decisions for each patient. Now, the objective of T4 was to eliminate the economic burden of those the regime and the doctors deemed worthless eaters. And it was also to empty beds to make room for wounded soldiers during the war. T4 also served as a testing ground for various lethal chemical and pharmaceuticals. The financial beneficiaries of the Nazi genocide were the corporate elite. Their record of collaboration with genocidal regimes is uninterrupted. Without the financial support of Wall Street bankers and collaboration by major US, German, and Swiss corporations that provided the chemical, the industrial, and the technological material, Hitler could not have carried out this unprecedented industrialized murderous operations. Among the companies that profiteered from the Holocaust, Standard Oil and Chase Manhattan, both owned by Rockefellers, IBM, Kodak, Ford, Coca-Cola, Nestle, BMW, and of course IG Farben and Bayer, as well as Escher Wyss. IG Farben was the largest World War II profiteer. Using Auschwitz patients as slave laborers, doctors actually sent those whom they deemed able to be slave laborers to the IG Farben factories and mines. They also had their own chem. They also conducted experiments. IBM technology facilitated the rapid implementation of the Holocaust. Census data was contained in IBM computer punch cards. The Jews were quickly identified, rounded up, segregated, deported, tracked, imprisoned, tattooed, enslaved, and exterminated. COVID-19 pandemic has exposed eugenics-driven public health policies in Western Europe and the United States. This is a chilling replay of T4. Government directives to hospitals and nursing homes essentially condemn the elderly to death. In Europe and the United States, hospitals were ordered not to treat, not to provide medical treatment, including oxygen, to elderly people in nursing homes. Several U.S. governors sent infected elderly people to nursing homes, knowing that they lacked essential safeguards to prevent the spread of the virus. Before he issued the executive order that sent 15,000, more than 15,000 human beings to death, Governor Cuomo of New York State predicted that the virus would be like fire through dry grass in nursing homes. The corporate media Academy of Science awarded Governor Cuomo an Emmy for his TV performances that were billed as, what were they billed as? There are always euphemisms, but the point was he was giving the happenings of how the virus was progressing and what was being done, and the implication was that the White House wasn't doing it, so he was doing it for them. He were briefings, that was the term that was used. Of course, we have since found out, since the Attorney General report, that it was all a lie, and that he concealed the number of deaths. So he knew when people conceal a crime, they know it's a crime.
Yeah. Let me translate. Die besondere Lektion, die wir aus dem Dritten Reich eigentlich lernen sollen.
Ich hoffe nicht mit diesem Ausgang, aber es ist wirklich also schockierend, ja.
We all know this, Vera, but it's shocking to hear this over again and to see it in context, to see what's going on right now. It's simply shocking. And Viviane pointed out that her, was war das, dein Groß...
Mein Großonkel, also great uncle.
Yeah, her great uncle was a priest, and he tried and preached, wanted to protect the people from this T4 program. Eventually, he too was put into a concentration camp, and he died there. So she is, even Viviane is personally touched by this, and she's just hoping that this time we will have a different outcome. I'm sure we will, but it's not going to be without a very, very serious fight.
Very serious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you let me, I'll go on with what I have, and then you can always ask me questions.
Yeah.
In 2006, during the avian flu epidemic, H5N1, a panel of public health officials advised the Bush administration to institute quarantines and closures and measured lockdowns. Their recommendations to consider these lockdowns were completely rejected by Dr. Donald Henderson, who was an acclaimed real eradicator of, among other things, smallpox. And he wrote a report. He was the primary author. There were three of them. And the report was in opposition to what he called unscientific measure. And this is what he said, I quote, "Experience functioning of the community is least disrupted. Strong political and public health leadership to provide reassurance and to ensure that needed medical care services are provided are critical elements. If either is seen to be less than optimal, a manageable epidemic could move toward catastrophe. Today, debate is forbidden. A doctor is not allowed to say that. The virus is being exploited to maintain a state of fear. Lockdowns have, in this time around, proved to be very effective tool for social control, but they failed to change the course of the virus. People are being conditioned to submit passively to government dictates. Children who are deprived of an education are being conditioned to distrust people. Mandatory masks are an insidious psychological weapon. They demean our dignity as free human beings. They do not work in this or any epidemic, and they are the symbolic equivalent of the yellow star. Study after study has found that lockdowns destroyed millions of lives and livelihoods, throwing millions of people into poverty. Even the Wall Street Journal has conceded that lockdowns were not worth the pain. However, for global oligarchs, the COVID pandemic has been a financial bonanza. American billionaires increased their vast personal wealth by $2.2 trillion just in 2020. So I guess we really can't overlook the strong financial incentive for lockdowns that destroy competition. All the local industries in most cities certainly gone bankrupt. We're supposed to only buy from the large Amazons. This is planned. Doctors and scientists who express views that challenge official dictates are treated as heretics. They are threatened with loss of livelihood, and I'm sure you know some of them. Anyone who questions the safety of vaccines that have been rushed through Operation Warp Speed is muzzled and vilified by the media. Now, these COVID-19 vaccine contracts under Operation Warp Speed are totally confidential. They've even used a middle contractor, does things for the military, so that those contracts can't be acquired under FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. They're not in government custody. Why? Why the secretiveness? Why has the CEO of Pfizer really tried to blackmail Argentina, in Brazil? Others can examine what the financial reasoning for wanting such absolute control and assurance that they could not be sued. I mean, going to the extent of requiring them to give their military bases, their banks, and to get insurance in other countries. I mean, all this collateral. Why? 2020 that the final solution to the pandemic will be a vaccine. You can decide what that means. Of course, he's referring to, and he knows he's old enough. But in other words, this is a kind of final solution. To ensure compliance with COVID vaccines, governments have instituted unprecedented aggressive measures. This is primarily to ensure a vigorous cash flow. They're already talking about the vaccines being required every year. That's again, Pfizer's here, why not? They haven't yet even cashed in. I mean, the vaccination only began in the middle of December. What will their profits look like at the end of 2021?
I'll translate this, Vera. Sie hat auf die Vogelgrippe zurückgegriffen, die in 2006 die Runde machte. Sind die Impfungen. Why do you think this is happening? For what reason are the self-appointed corporate elites, corporate and political elites, and I think the political elites don't really play a role here. Most of them are just marionettes, just stupid idiots, more or less. But why are they pushing for this? What is the ultimate goal? What are they after?
Read The Great Reset.
Yeah, okay.
Klaus Schwab. That is a must. Now, it's laid out.
Yeah.
It's laid out, and it's essentially, it's to finish the job, only now it's global.
Yeah.
It's to go beyond Hitler.
Yeah.
Hitler only looked at Europe and taking over Russia, but still, he didn't think global. This is global.
Yeah.
It's about population reduction. That's always been the oligarchs' goal since John D. Rockefeller. And power, control. The technology today is far superior to IBM's punch cards.
Yeah.
What they are doing with this virus is to institute absolutely unprecedented, oppressive and repressive elements that imprison us in our homes. We're being tracked, surveyed. You know that green passports are now being instituted to have an apartheid two-class society. One class privileged, the other reviled and discriminated against. Sound familiar?
Absolutely.
Will ghettos, detention camps follow?
Yeah.
And how will people be killed? The Nazis used tattoos to identify and track Jews well, so that they don't escape, right? Well, now we've got even invasive tracking surveillance technology already done. It's been developed thanks to Bill Gates. He financed these, including chip tattoos. Chip tattoos. Now this Great Reset is the master plan. Just as Hitler had a master plan, the Great Reset or the New World Order or the Fourth Industrial Revolution, this is a plan and it's out in the open and it's been, he published it. COVID, as he indicated himself, Klaus Schwab, is a wonderful opportunity to reset. Did any of us give informed consent to a reset of the world?
No way.
Well, shouldn't we? Shouldn't we be asked?
Yeah.
But this is just it. This has gone so far. Dr. Yudam talked before, I heard just the last, 10 minutes, about how the agencies, the government agencies are giving a pass under radar and, the eugenics that's the problem. It's never gone away, and that class, the elites, truly believe that they are Übermenschen and we are all Untermenschen. That is what is driving this. So, money, of course, but power. Power is, it's like a drug, I think. There are people who are absolutely evil. They do not recognize the human species as being one. Once you start having these two-class systems, you will not prevent a global Holocaust.
Why is it that we don't seem to be able to adjust ourselves to the physical environment without destroying it? Why is it that in a way this culture represents in a unique fashion the law of diminishing returns, that our success is a failure, that we are building up, in other words, an enormous technological civilization which seems to promise the fulfillment of every wish almost at the touch of a button. And yet, as in so many fairy tales, when the wishes finally materialize, they're like fairy gold. They're not really material at all. In other words, so many of our products, our cars, our homes, our clothing, our food, it looks as if it were really the instant creation of pure thought. That is to say, it is thoroughly insubstantial, lacking in what the connoisseur of wine calls body. And in so many other ways, the riches that we produce are ephemeral. And as a result of that, we're frustrated. We're terribly frustrated. We feel that the only thing is to go on getting more and more. And as a result of that, the whole landscape begins to look like the nursery of a spoiled child who's got too many toys and is bored with them and throws them away as fast as he gets them, plays them for a few minutes. Also, we're dedicated to a tremendous war on the basic material dimensions of time and space. We want to obliterate their limitations. We want to get everything done as fast as possible. We want to convert the rhythms and the skills of work into cash, which indeed you can buy something with, but you can't eat it. And then rush home to get away from work and begin the real business of life, to enjoy ourselves. You know, for the vast majority of American families, what seems to be the real point of life, what you rush home to get to, is to watch an electronic reproduction of life. You can't touch it. It doesn't smell, and it has no taste. You might think that people getting home to the real point of life in a robust material culture would go home to a colossal banquet or an orgy of lovemaking or a riot of music and dancing. But nothing of the kind. It turns out to be this purely passive contemplation of a twittering screen. You see mile after mile of darkened houses with that little electronic screen flickering in the room. Everybody isolated, watching this thing, and thus in no real communion with each other at all. And this isolation of people into a private world of their own is really the creation of a mindless crowd. And so we don't get with each other, except for public expressions of getting rid of our hostility, like football or prize fighting. And even in the spectacles one sees on this television, it's perfectly proper to exhibit people slugging and slaying each other, but oh dear no, not people loving each other, except in a rather restrained way. One can only draw the conclusion that the assumption underlying this is that expressions of physical love are far more dangerous than expressions of physical hatred. And it seems to me that a culture that has that sort of assumption is basically crazy and devoted, unintentionally indeed, but nevertheless in fact devoted, not to survival, but to the actual destruction of life.